footwork, power, maybe a punch.
With Canelo, yeah. I think the X factor. I think the X factor is power, because really, it's the power of Golovkin that, you know, when this fight was talked about a couple years ago, I was the first one to say, it was 2 years, whatever it was. I was the first one to say that I think it'd be a mistake at that moment if Canelo's people fought him. They had the goose that lays the golden eggs, and you know, why put him in the fox house where he could get eaten up and there's no more golden eggs? And I thought it was wrong, and I even said, I said, wait till he gets older, you know. And they waited. They waited. They were pretty smart, those people. I didn't know they were that smart. They waited, and you know what? Because at that time, the reason why, and if people ask me, they throw a microphone in front of me, why shouldn't he fight him? Too big, too strong. Boom. Don't have to go any farther. Too big, too strong. Golovkin, too big, too strong. But now, 2 years later, maybe he has deteriorated. He has not improved. You could say that he's deteriorated. He's 34 years old. You could even say he's been exposed in his last 2 fights with Brook and with Danny Jacobs. And I love Danny Jacobs, did a great job. But I still think he exposed him, which is credit to Danny Jacobs. But so this is a guy that's not the hardest guy to hit, not the fastest guy in the world, a guy who built his resume on, listen, he's terrific, Golovkin, but he built his resume, taking nothing away from him, but he built it on knocking out a lot of middleweight, European junior middleweights. And now the last couple of times, like he fights a middleweight and Danny Jacobs, and man, he has a tough time. And again, he's 34 years old. We're allowed to dissipate. I mean, really, we're allowed to get less. It happens. And I think he's dissipated. And then you got the other side of the equation, the other side of the coin. You got Canelo, who's still young. Was he 26? Right? He's still young. He's getting better. He's shown improvement. He has shown improvement defensively. He's been able to incorporate that into his game, and I think it's a much closer fight than it would have been 2 years ago. It's the kind of fight that makes me think now whether or not I still like Canelo the way Golovkin the way I did, because now it's not about being big and strong. Now it's about being older, being vulnerable, being one-dimensional. I mean, that's what I've seen in him lately. You know, now, but it still comes to that X factor power, that Canelo has to diffuse that power, has to avoid that power, probably in the right hand for the most part, right? I mean, the power for the most part, it would be the right hand. Canelo's been vulnerable to right hands, and that's where Golovkin looks to load up. He has to be able to avoid that if he's going to win this fight. So it starts there. Then it goes to places like, well, let's switch around here. Let's trade places. That's kind of like that Eddie Murphy movie, Trading Places, years ago, where he went from, he went from the street to being a stockbroker. They traded places in life. Well, maybe now, instead of looking at the vulnerability, we looked at Canelo being a smaller guy. Maybe now we look at that 2 years later as a positive, as an advantage. He's the quicker guy. He's the more mobile guy. He's the more dimensional guy. He's the more improved guy. Wow. Maybe he's the more confident guy. I mean, he's at his highest confident place that he could be at right now. So now that makes the fight really more intriguing for me, and much closer than it was 2 years ago.